let's start with our NWSL recap, the big winners and losers. There were 16 goals scored in 3 games by 4 teams. 16 goals in 3 games. I'm repeating that stat because that was just nuts. We're going to start with the heaviest hitter of them all, Portland Thorns versus OL Reign. This match happened Sunday afternoon at 3:00 Eastern. The Thorns win this 6-0. It was the biggest Portland Thorns victory since 2014. Back-to-back games for Portland where they have scored 10 goals and conceded 0. Becky Sauerbrunn, she gets her first goal as a Portland Thorn and her first goal since 2019. That came in the 25th minute, second goal of the day for them. This game was all Thorns to start and to end. But when we look at the overall trajectory of this game between Portland and Orlando, it was 2-0 at the half heading into halftime. And then Portland just continued to steamroll over Orlando throughout this second half. Besides just looking at the scoreline, Lori, when you looked at these two sides between Portland and Orlando, what did you make of this game?
Well, I made a sorry, my microphone was about to fall over, so I needed to adjust that. Listen, with this game, I mean, this is a Portland team that won 4-0 last week, right? They tied 2-2 in the middle of the week, a week and a half ago against San Diego. We're still on the road against Houston, won 4-0. And I think this is a team that made a few adjustments. They went to play a 4-back the last 2 games just in terms of the personnel. And a team that knew how important it was to get points. They're playing in front of their own home fans. And you have a number of players that are playing at a high level. I mean, we've even talked about Sophia Smith being an MVP candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So MLS, MVP candidate. It's early in the morning, 10:30. And so I think you just see a Portland team that is playing at a high level. A lot of things that we talked about last year with this Portland team was just an understanding of roles, and regardless of if you're starting or not. And I think that is one thing that Rian Wilkinson has done really well since taking over. And Mark Parsons had led the way with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a real collaborative effort amongst the players and an understanding so people could step in seamlessly. And yeah, I think it's just a team that was energetic, playing in front of home fans that we're excited. And unfortunately, Orlando, not at their best. I think it was conceding 2 goals and then, just a difficult time for them to find their way in an environment like that at Providence Park.
Yeah, completely. And you mentioned it with Portland winning 4-0 against Houston a week ago and then 6-0 against Orlando. Yes, 10 goals amongst these 2 different games, but lots of different goal scorers for Portland. Yes, Smith had a brace against Houston. She also had a brace against Orlando Pride. But in this most recent game for Portland, Hina Sugidis started this scoring in the 21st minute. Becky Sauerbrunn got a goal. Kuika also got a goal, and Taylor Porter got a goal, the final goal in stoppage time. So the balanced effort is there from the Thorns. And I think that's also something that's really impressive to see with all of the different rotation that they have. We're starting to see a lot more minutes from Olivia Moultrie, the young player in the NWSL with the Thorns. And I'm impressed with what we're seeing from her being on this type of stage. I think Coffey has continuously improved game after game. And in this match against Orlando, I think Sam Coffey did such a nice job of sitting in those holes and finding those gaps and then quickly getting rid of the ball. She had pressure on her. And that's something that every opponent is looking to do as soon as Coffey gets the ball, close in on her. But I think that made her play better because as she received the ball, it was 1-2 touch. She got it out on the other side. The team effort is something that I was super impressed with. And I had such a great time watching this game as a fan and as an analyst watching it and breaking it down because Orlando was just happy Portland was just happy and looking to play, move the ball around. They looked like they were having so much fun playing this game and that it was coming so easily to them, which doesn't always happen. And as the game went on, it became easier and easier for them to find those holes, find those pockets, and just continue the scoring for Portland. No Sydney LaRue in this match for Orlando Pride, which definitely hurt them. And then right before this game actually happened on Friday, Amy Turner with Orlando Pride announced that she was stepping away from Orlando and from the game in the NWSL. She took to social media and said, after a year in the NWSL with Orlando Pride, I've decided to move on and explore a new challenge in my career. Thank you to everyone at Orlando who supported me during my time there, wishing the club good luck in the future. So that was from Amy Turner. So that definitely changed things and put a different tilt on this match, at least for me, because Orlando is going through a lot in their front office right now with the head coach and first assistant having being put on leave right now, and the new coach is coming in. There's just a lot going on with Orlando. They actually had a shot in this game go off the post against Portland that Bella Bigsby gets pretty lucky at. But for Orlando, it's a bit of a struggle right now. And because they are dealing with so much off the pitch, it's really hard to translate that onto the pitch with good soccer. And when you travel to Portland and go against a Thorns team, it's tricky. It is really tough to do. And Portland made it very hard to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for both teams, it'd be for Orlando, it would seem like, okay, this is a good time to go into the international break to be able to regroup. I think even Tony Presley, the press conference afterwards, was like, okay, we need to, yeah, exactly that, just regroup and come together and figure some things out. And then for Portland, I think it's a massive amount of points, right? And to your point and to what I was saying earlier too, this is an energetic Portland team that do seem to be having a lot of fun. And I'll be actually interested on the Portland side too, just about do they end up sticking with this 4-back? Because that is 10 goals in the last 2 games with a different formation. And with a 3-back, I mean, we've seen in the last couple of weeks that they are susceptible to conceding goals. They don't seem as comfortable holding on to leads. They still do put a lot of pressure, regardless of the formation you're playing. But I mean, there is something to be said about the amount of goals they're scoring in a different formation where they have a little bit more comfort, I would say, defensively or just behind the ball and in positions when it is turned over. So I'll be curious, but does a huge win for them, and I think important win for a team that was a little bit up and down for Portland in terms of results for a little bit, right? So
yeah, I agree. I think looking at the formation is very interesting because honestly, this gives Reen Wilkinson another weapon in her arsenal use to have the flexibility to switch from a 3-back to a 4-back. But yeah, they found more success at that 4-back, but I also think it has to go against the opponents they're playing against. With Orlando, they were in a 4-3-3, so very central, and in a 4-4-2 for Portland, it allowed them to really occupy the flanks and take up the space out wide, which is where we saw a lot of the action coming in from. The first couple of goals, it was crosses in from the width coming in into the central area. So honestly, having the ability to switch between a 4-back and a 3-back is a huge advantage for Portland. Looking at who they're going up against.
Yeah, and let's be honest, we saw Kelly Hubley, her celebration for Portland a couple weeks ago. Her celebration for Becky's goal. I mean, it is bonkers over there. So, and it was exciting to see Kuika. I think she's been a really important piece to them, and especially in the attack. So it was good to see her to be able to get a goal as well before she would be heading off soon, I would imagine, with Finland to the Euros.
Yeah, it definitely huge for Kuika, a good game by her, and nice to have her be rewarded with a goal, as you just mentioned. So Portland, they take home the win over Orlando 6-0, back-to-back shutouts and clean sheets for Portland and Bella Bigsby. The second game that I want to talk about that had a pretty large scoreline, Gotham FC versus San Diego Wave FC. San Diego take home the win in this match, 3-0. Alex Morgan. We've got to talk about her. She had a brace in this match. That's her 11th goal in 10 games. She also got the assist on the 3rd goal scored by Mackenzie Doniak for the Wave. This is a lot of goals for a player in Alex Morgan. She seems to be back in form. In the post-game, Gotham FC players and Scott Parkinson talking about how Alex Morgan is looking at some of the best right now than she has even in her younger days. She is finding pockets of space. We saw a lot more from San Diego Wave in this match against Gotham, which was a big topic. Sandra and I talked about it in the preview of this game. that the first time these two teams played each other in the regular season, San Diego won 4-0 against Gotham. Alex Morgan scoring 4 of those goals. Now this time it was at Red Bull Arena. It was on big CBS. It was Gotham going to let that happen again. And we saw better things from Gotham. I don't want to just skim over the scoreline and say that San Diego dominated this game, because I was actually very pleasantly surprised with what I saw from Christy Mewis in the midfield. She was finding those pockets. She had really nice through balls into Ifioma Anamano up top and Midge Purse, but the forwards really, they couldn't score. They had one off the post. So San Diego got very lucky there, being able to keep a clean sheet. But in this type of match, when you look at the scoreline of it, San Diego sweeps the series now 7-0 aggregate over Gotham. And there are 2 matches that they played in this regular season. And now San Diego stays atop the standings to start the international break, which is something Alex Morgan alluded to in the post-game interview with Marissa Pillow, that they wanted to be atop the standings. But between these two sides, I think we saw a lot of really good things on the San Diego side from Taylor Korniak. I was impressed with her in the midfield. Sophia Jakobsen, we saw more from her in the front line and combining well. But Alex Morgan, holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, when a player is in form, I mean, this is what you find, right? And to your point, I agree with this. I think sometimes the scoreline does get, if you don't watch a game, it skews exactly what happened. And I think there were some really good moments for Gotham as well. But fine margins in this league, as we always say. And on any given day, I do feel like teams can beat another team if you're on point, right? If you're finishing your chances. And unfortunately, or fortunately for San Diego, they have Alex Morgan. And to open the scoring, though, beautiful ball in from Korniak. And it's just those little details that are actually separating teams right now. I think, I mean, that's a little bit of a generalization because we're seeing more things. But yeah, I mean, credit to Casey Stoney and her team. I mean, really coming together, have found the personnel that really suit them to be able to be successful, right? And I think there were some question marks about their midfield for a little bit on what was the right mix, who you're going to have. And I think even across the board, but for San Diego in particular, have found a formation and a starting 11 that suits them, right? And you're starting to see those partnerships come together.
I agree. And without Abby Dahlkemper in the back line, she's still out with
dealing with listen, Girma has been awesome. Girma has been fantastic. And really, you wouldn't even know if you're new to this league that this is a rookie. I mean, leading the line, everything, right? She has been fantastic.
It's been super impressive to watch Girma. And she started the Challenge Cup well with San Diego, right? It was as a rookie and playing her very first games in the NWSL, it was impressive. And now that San Diego is 10 matches into this regular season, she looks like she's been playing in the league for 3 years as a starting center back. Yeah. It is truly impressive to see. And you mentioned the midfield gelling more for San Diego. I think the front line as well, with Turnbow getting more minutes in there, with Morgan and Jakobsen, they're starting to read each other so much better. Jakobsen has had games where she is stellar and games where she is average. And average for Jakobsen is still amazing compared to other players. But I think that we're starting to see more consistency of her understanding her role, occupying the flank, getting the balls and whipping them in. And Morgan and Turnbow being able to read off of her, as well as Korniak, understanding the movement off the ball between those players in the front line for San Diego has gotten a lot better. And the first time they played Gotham, it was a very direct game. It was looking to go in over the top. And now the second match against Gotham, it was much more rhythmic. It was much more looking for the build-up play, having passing combinations and getting into the attacking end, which poses a different threat against a Gotham team. If you're expecting them to go direct, and San Diego ends up possessing a lot more, popping into the spaces underneath.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great point about the directness, because I think at the last few games for San Diego, we've seen a bit more confidence where originally I do feel like at the beginning of the season, even in the Challenge Cup, they tried to play a bit more. And then it started becoming a bit more direct in their ability to try to beat over the top, right? And they still have that. They have that ability to do that. We've seen some against OL Reign, right? One ball over the top. Alex Morgan is able to score right off of Kaylin Sheridan. However, I do think now there is much more mobility and fluidity in their play. So they have both aspects, which will be interesting going forward. And Jakobsen, I think, also just came into like settling into this league. I mean, this is a very transitional league, be something that would look very different than her previous experiences. So I think she's learning how to affect the game, and this in San Diego, with her play, right, in this league.
And it does take a bit of time to adjust. You know, we talked a lot about San Diego, just some stats from the Gotham side of things. Ifeoma Onumonu led Gotham with shots. She had 5, 3 of those on target, but no other player for Gotham had shots on target. Zerboni and Purse both had 2 shots, but off frame. So the attacking presence for Gotham really wasn't there. They had a great shot off the post from Onumonu, but I think we saw a lot more from Christy Mewis in the midfield. I was impressed with what I saw from her and her ability to pop in those holes, find those spaces, and feed the forwards, but then the finishing wasn't there. So they're getting there. They're getting there in their build-up attacking play. But San Diego take the win 3-0 over Gotham. That was the Sunday afternoon game. And the last game on Sunday, North Carolina Courage versus Houston Dash. Houston win this 4-3. Yes, 4-3. Houston win this one. There were 5 goals in 13 minutes to start the second half. North Carolina was at home as well, and this is the first time that the Courage have lost at home when they've scored 3 goals. Lori, you were on the call for this game. It was great to hear you there. What were your thoughts on this?
Honestly, that was one of the strangest games. It was very strange, just in the fact that there wasn't a ton of rhythm for either teams. I think there was uncharacteristically turnovers in unnecessary areas. I felt like North Carolina started the game really well. We didn't see Houston get a lot of opportunities. I thought O'Sullivan was excellent in there throughout the game. In terms of starting, dictating tempo like we typically see, but her getting higher up the field, just forcing Houston to have to turn over balls in certain areas. But what a cracker of a goal to start with from O'Sullivan. But then almost against the run of play, and massive credit to Sanchez, because what an excellent finish that was. But it was just a poor giveaway off of honestly an unnecessary giveaway. And then Sanchez with the perfect finish to equalize, right? And then you felt like, all right, here's North Carolina growing into the game, number of chances, but it was like the final pass, the final understanding of, a player going one way, the ball played behind her, or whatever, right? It was just the lack of execution. And I really thought coming into that second half that North Carolina playing at home, getting the big win the weekend prior against the Washington Spirit, and even talking to Sean Nahas just about his team, starting to show a bit more mentality and character, the character that they're used to seeing. I thought we were going to see this, this North Carolina team come out.
I think we all thought that. I think we all thought that was going to happen.
After they conceded that goal, I think it was in the 16th minute or so, then it was basically all North Carolina outside of a few, again, just unnecessary, uncharacteristic turnovers. Yeah. But my goodness, it was an unnecessary foul, right, to give away the free kick, and then just an odd play. Kurt's trying to, clear it, doesn't, uses her head, goes right into the path of Eddie, and Eddie pounced on it first, right? And then
a great job by Eddie. So this is what happens into the halftime. I'll give a scoring summary for everyone listening. Into the halftime, 1-1, all tied up, a goal apiece from O'Sullivan and Sanchez. O'Sullivan for North Carolina and Sanchez for Houston Dash. 47th minute, Houston Dash score. 50th minute, Houston Dash score. 51st minute, Houston Dash score. It is now 4-1 in the 51st minute. North Carolina gets one back in the 57th minute. It's now 2-4 still to Houston. And then in the 59th minute, the Courage get their third goal of the game, 3-4 to Houston. But holy cow, the start of the second half, it was, as you just mentioned, Eddie picked up the ball and had an incredible goal coming in the 47th minute. And then she gets another one in the 50th minute, a great little chipper ball in, which is something we haven't seen Elizabeth Eddy do, take a game by her hands and say, I'm going to control this one. We've seen Rachel Daly do that. And now in the absence of Rachel Daly, perhaps it's allowing more space for other players to come in. But North Carolina sleeping at the start of that second half, perhaps?
Oh, I think certainly. And I think they'll look at the video and not be pleased, because these are all things. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the finishes or whatever, but from just the North Carolina standpoint, I think they'll know that there's moments in the game that you have to be turned on, and that would be start of a half, start of a game, and to give away that free kick and then to concede that goal to go down 2-1. Right. And then to not be able to control play, another quick turnover. And I originally on that second Eddie goal thought it took a deflection, but it was a fantastic finish. I mean, she just understood, like, opens her body, just clips it over. And yeah, I mean, and credit to Sarah Loudon, right? Because is this like the most convincing win anybody's ever seen from Houston Dash? No, I'd say not. Because you're also missing some players, right? As you mentioned, Rachel Daly, who's a big piece to not only scoring, but I think some like emotional aspect of their team and the energy as well. But Sanchez has been fantastic for them, and we've seen her play out wide. This game, she's moved more central. Now, she did have the freedom to roam a bit, so we did see her out wide as well. But I think that was a huge move, because then Eddie does get the start. We've seen Eddie also start out wide, move Sanchez more centrally, and just the adjustments that were needed to be made to ultimately get that win. I think you got to give Sarah Loudon some credit for sure on that.
You definitely do. I think, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, then I was just going to say, and then Nichelle Prince. I mean, that has to be honestly a goal of the year candidate, because
for sure,
just the ability to cut across the front foot, right, and then just slot it. I thought it was excellent. That ended up being the game winner.
Yes, yeah, it ends up being the game winner, and it was a really incredible goal. But holy cow, the goals in this game! Just to run through the scoring summary for everyone. North Carolina starts the scoring 6th minute. Denise O'Sullivan. The equalizer comes from Sanchez of Houston. That comes in the 15th minute. Second half starts off Elizabeth Eddy goal in the 47th minute. Eddy again in the 50th minute. Nichelle Prince in the 51st minute. And then North Carolina gets back on the board. A goal from the rookie Diana Ordonez in the 57th minute. The Bina gets on the board in the 59th minute. But you're right. The Nichelle Prince goal is the one that helped Houston win it. It was the game winner in this match for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, you just listing off all this goal, all those goals were world class. It is unbelievable. So as strange as the game was, and the back and forth and like conceding goals in like quick succession on both sides, every single one. I mean, the first touch from Ordonez and then the second touch, I mean, to set up the goal, I mean, unbelievable. So, well, not unbelievable because we just saw it, but it was a fantastic goal.
I think that's such a good point too, that all of these goals were really world class. They were incredible. I forgot about that touch from Ordonez. It was a long ball coming in left side of the field into her in the box. She touches it. It has not a lot of space in front of her defender, but is able to move laterally, get around the defender, and then rip a beautiful shot. I've been incredibly impressed with Ordonez and what she's been able to do. Now to see her go with the international level of things, going with Mexico and Maria Sanchez. We'll see them in the CONCACAF W Championships this summer, which is good, but bad for US, but great as NWSL fans to be able to continue to watch a lot of these players go and excel at the international level, which is something I am hoping for. But that rounds off our crazy scoring summary of the weekend. North Carolina versus Houston. The Dash take the win 4-3 in this final match.